We hit the body with a tremendous, whether it's ultraviolet or just very powerful light. And I think you said that hasn't been checked, but you're going to test it. And then I said, supposing you brought the light inside the body, which you can do either through the skin or in some other way. And I think you said you're going to test that too. Sounds interesting.
We'll get the right folks who could.
Right, and then I see the disinfectant where it knocks it out in a minute, 1 minute. And is there a way we can do something like that by injection inside or almost a cleaning? Because you see it gets on the lungs and it does a tremendous number of the lungs. So it'd be interesting to check that. So that you're going to have to use medical doctors with. But it sounds interesting to me. I would like you to speak to the medical doctors to see if there's any way that you can apply light and heat to cure. You know, if you could. And maybe you can, maybe you can't. Again, I say maybe you can, maybe you can't. I'm not a doctor. But I'm like a person that has a good, you know what.
But sir, you're the president.
Deborah, have you ever heard of that? The heat and the light relative to certain viruses, yes, but relative to this virus?
Not as a treatment. I mean, certainly fever is a good thing when you have a fever. It helps your body respond. But not as, I've not seen heat or light.
I think it's a great thing to look at. I mean, you know. Okay?
Respectfully, sir, you're the president, and people tuning into these briefings, they want to get information and guidance and want to know what to do. They're not looking for rumors.
Hey, Phil, I'm the president, and you're fake news. And you know what I'll say to you? I'll say very nicely, I know you well. I know you well, because I know the guy. I see what he writes. He's a total faker. So are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? It's just a suggestion from a brilliant lab by a very, very smart, perhaps brilliant man. He's talking about sun, he's talking about heat, and you see the numbers. So that's it. That's all I have. I'm just here to present talent. I'm here to present ideas, because we want ideas to get rid of this thing. And if heat is good, and if sunlight is good, that's a great thing as far as I'm concerned. Go ahead.
And so fresh off of relentlessly touting hydroxychloroquine, which a study has now shown was more dangerous than standard care, Trump has moved on to promoting injecting disinfectant to kill the virus. Yup, can't see this backfiring at all. Just as a general reminder, Trump is not a doctor. In fact, not only is he not a doctor, but in the same sentence, he said this.
And maybe you can, maybe you can't. Again, I say maybe you can, maybe you can't. I'm not a doctor. But I'm like a person that has a good, you know what.
I feel like it's probably a safe bet not to take medical advice from the guy who says that he's a person who has a good, and then points to his head to show his brain. But on a serious note, there is a reason why doctors don't hold press conferences touting unproven drugs, and that is because A, they're not proven, meaning that if someone takes them, we don't know if it's safe. And so if the whole point is to help people, it's probably best not to potentially expose them to more danger. And B, even if the treatment was safe, there is a major risk involved if the person promoting it doesn't communicate it effectively, especially when that person uses words like injecting disinfectant, because disinfectant as we know it is Lysol or bleach, both of which absolutely should not be injected or ingested or used as a treatment in any way, shape, or form against coronavirus. But because Trump has a vocabulary consisting of all of 35 words, the risk of him saying the wrong thing is somewhere in the ballpark of 99%. By the way, what makes this so insane is that only weeks ago, while Trump was again busy playing doctor, an Arizona couple in their 60s heard Trump promote chloroquine, found chloroquine phosphate in their house, and ingested it. Chloroquine phosphate is fish tank cleaner, but because they heard the president on TV day in and day out praising this drug, they saw the words chloroquine on this product and took it. The man died and his wife was in critical condition. And no, chloroquine is not the same as chloroquine phosphate, but clearly not everyone knows that. And clearly that is the risk you run when you have the president of the United States touting miracle cures on national television to millions of people who, for some reason unbeknownst to me, trust the utter nonsense that comes out of his mouth. That's also why even Dr. Birx, who is generally happy to toe the White House line on Trump's behalf, couldn't bring herself to entertain this idea and says plainly that she's seen no evidence that this is an effective treatment, because even she knows that throwing Hail Marys with unproven treatments by a guy who can barely articulate a sentence as it is only going to end up hurting someone. And so hopefully this serves as a wake-up call to networks not to air these press conferences, because A, let's be honest, They're not press conferences, they're campaign rallies. He spends more time airing political grievances than he does discussing the US response to the outbreak. And even when he does discuss the virus, it's mostly him praising himself for taking the brilliant, genius step of implementing a travel ban with China that still let 40,000 people travel here from China anyway. And B, they're gonna get someone killed. The guy has no qualms about spouting off whatever miracle drug he had whispered into his ear, but there is no miracle cure here. Even if we do find the correct treatment or a vaccine, until it goes through the year-long process of clinical trials, it's still not safe. But Trump isn't concerned about that. He just wants the credit for finding the cure and having been the first one to call it. And if that means getting up behind the lectern and appearing on national TV every single day and throwing spaghetti against the wall until something finally sticks, then that's what he'll do, even if it puts lives in danger in the meantime. And when the Washington Post's Philip Rucker called him out on exactly that, saying that people tune into these briefings for valid information, Trump's response was to call him fake news before digging in his heels and actually defending these dangerous antics, saying, quote, "It's just a suggestion. But just a thought, maybe we don't air medical brainstorming sessions hosted by a guy who never went to medical school but has decided he's qualified anyway because of his brain." Because to be perfectly honest, the last thing we need right now in this country is our already stressed healthcare system suddenly dealing with a surge of Trump supporters drinking bleach to inoculate themselves against coronavirus. And the first step in preventing that is getting the president off the air.